Acadiana's News Channel at 5:30. I'm Alex Labat. It's been one very rainy weekend. Areas of Acadiana reporting several inches of rain. Daniel and Rob are in today with team coverage of weather around Acadiana. We first start out with Rob in the weather lab for a look at your weather for the next 24 hours. Rob.
Well, fortunately, Alex, we have seen about half the rain that we were advertising, and that's the good news. Putting a serious dent in the drought. We've had some localized runoff issues, some street flooding, but no major flooding, and that's the good news as well. So as we take a look at Power Doppler HD, we notice that the bulk of the heavier rains have advanced into the extreme northern portions of Acadiana, into central Louisiana, and then off to the east across portions of the coastal marsh, where we're still seeing locally very heavy downpours. But the main action has been shifting primarily east of Acadiana. Now, we do have this low pressure area sitting just off the Cameron coastline. This is only going to slowly move inland across Acadiana through the nighttime hours and likely be parked somewhere over St. Mary Parish by late tomorrow afternoon. And with the breezy easterly winds for the most part, we've seen tides coming up along the coast. We've seen mostly northeasterly winds inland, so the tides not as bad as they could have been, but they've come up as high as 3 to 6 feet above normal, running about 2 to 4 feet above normal right now. And that's where we find our Daniel Phillips live down in Delcambre. Daniel, what are you seeing down there?
Yeah, well, that low that you were just mentioning, it's sitting off coast, and it's been causing a lot of problems down through here, and a lot of it has to do with the tides. Tides have been running very, very high. Talking with someone earlier, they said that right now it's about 3 feet higher, and some of that water is still coming in. You can see it pushing in up the canal. The winds have been blowing it in, and as it goes on through the rest of the evening, we'll start to see that water get higher and higher, and some of it could start spilling over into the parking lot that we're actually set up in. Now, weather-wise, it's been very, very breezy, and a light mist pretty constantly since we've been out here about an hour or so. But every now and then you get a sheet of rain that works its way through. So still very wet, still soggy conditions. The roadways, again, we saw a little bit of minor flooding, and that's going to stay soggy into tomorrow morning as well. Live in Delcambre, I'm Daniel Phillips for KATC TV3.
From the KATC Weather Lab, here's Rob's forecast.
Welcome back. Well, our Gulf of Mexico nor'easter continues to churn along the Louisiana coastline, still in a flood watch, but the bulk of the heaviest rains have shifted east and north of Acadiana, and hopefully that's the way it plays. But we could see additional rainfall overnight tonight, 1 to 3 inch range, but we're not as concerned we once were on flooding. Tides are still elevated. We'll talk more about that coming up in just a bit. First off, though, let's bring you up to date on what's happening on Power Doppler HD, with all the heavy rainfall now moving out across the Atchafalaya Basin, affecting Baton Rouge down to Houma. Heaviest rains have abated at least most of St. Mary Parish, and we're seeing mostly moderate, occasionally heavier rains eastern St. Landry Parish. Still some locally heavy rainfall as we get into Vernon, northwestern Beauregard, where there's a flood warning right now. And as we put things in motion over the last half hour, you'll notice most of the action continues to move to the north. Our area of low pressure right here on the Cameron coastline, so we could see additional rain and storms redeveloping into the evening hours, but again, not expecting major flooding issues, but the roadways will stay wet. We're going to have localized street flooding and ponding on the roads, so you still may want to stay indoors. Now, as for rain accumulations over the last 24 hours, it's been the hill country and around Houston, down through Galveston, offshore. Locally, some pretty heavy rainfall, but most of us seeing about 3 to 5 inches of rain, 4 to 5 being more common. Lafayette, Opelousas, New Iberia on eastward, and then back to the west, 3 to 5 for the most part, with higher hot spots. Again, the Doppler is a little bit underestimating the rainfall, but certainly this is the rain we needed to put a serious dent in the drought, but hopefully not too much where we have flood issues. Now, we do have a flood warning in effect for portions of Beauregard, Vernon parishes through 7:45 this evening. This is for runoff issues and continue continuing rain here. Meanwhile, farther to the south, we have that flood warning for tides that came as high as about 3 to 5 feet above normal. They're running about 2 to 4 above normal along the coastline. Will stay elevated until those northerly winds develop as that low pressure system moves off to the east. And then the rest of us in a flood watch through tomorrow morning through 7 a.m. That includes up to 1 million people, including southeast Texas, with flood watches continuing all the way over to the Florida Panhandle. And this is where the heaviest rains are going to be, eastern Louisiana on eastward as we head into the nighttime hours. We hope. We'll keep our fingers crossed. As we look at predictive radar, again, the bulk of the heavier rain shifting north and east of us over. This is a 12-hour model, but notice the model trying to redevelop at least some locally heavy storms across portions of Acadiana. So that's why we're going to keep that flood watch going. And then on the back end of the system, we're going to continue to see showers tomorrow, but they're going to be not as widespread as what we saw today. Here's that surface low out here in the Gulf, 40, 50 mile an hour winds, few gusts over 60 with some of the heavier storms overnight last night. And with this area of low pressure that's right along the coast, but fortunately it is void of serious convection. But again, this is keeping the tides elevated along the coast. As we look at the infrared imagery, if we're looking back at this system, all the deep tropical moisture really festered offshore, intercepting some of the bigger rains. We were forecasting maybe better than 8 inches of rain, and we saw about half that. Our range was about 4 to 8, so pretty much in that, but on the lower end, hopefully no complaints. So here we go with the low pressure at midnight tonight. Heavier rains shifting over toward, say, Hammond, Slidell, New Orleans, but wraparound rain staying with us through tomorrow morning. That low pressure pretty much overhead tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. and it slowly fills in and weakens, but we'll continue to see breezy winds on with this system, and they'll continue tomorrow afternoon. But fortunately, north winds will help to make the tides recede as we go into tomorrow night. As for winds, they're going to be gusty, 15 to 25 with a few gusts to 30 to 35, but nothing too terribly bad. Highest winds offshore, and that's where they're going to stay for the most part. We'll see breezy northeast to northerly winds tomorrow, and then drier northwesterly winds kicking in as we head into Tuesday, and rain chances diminishing. So flood watch continuing. Another couple of inches of rain possible. We'll keep an eye on it, but no major concerns at this point. Breezy winds. Temperatures don't change a whole lot. 69 the low tonight. 71 tomorrow. Lingering showers, but not as widespread with those breezy winds, occasionally gusting up to 30 to 35, especially in the coastal marshes and along the coast. Tuesday, the clouds begin to break up. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, some nice days ahead, but it looks like we're going to see the risk of scattered showers and thunder showers redeveloping as we go into Halloween weekend. Right now, we'll go 40 to 50%, but those numbers will be subject to change. Trying to get one weather system out of here first, and then we'll address next weekend as we get closer to it, obviously. But Alex, all in all, not a bad weather system. We needed the rain, but not the flooding. So far, that's what we have seen.
It's a very impressive pictures coming out of that flooding.
Yeah, pretty wild stuff with that low offshore.
I appreciate it, Rob. Thanks. Coming up right here on KATC, a top